folks still paying higher at the grocery store and at the gas pump while the job market actually starts to dry up. How does this help you win an election in November?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
So inflation continues to be an issue. I filled up my car yesterday, $75. I do not have like a big truck. It's just, it's a sedan. $75. And the Biden administration seems dead set on taking a conservative path to ending inflation, raising interest rates. So what does that do? What is actually, we've been hearing about this, and this is actually, we talk about this a lot at my work because the projects that I work on are financed projects with 25, 30-year terms. And so when you're talking about 25, 30-year term on a contract and you're talking about increasing the interest rate by 0.5%, that's a really big deal. And for a lot of our projects are just kind of like they just break even. So this is a really big concern at my workplace. And so what does it do? Well, like I just told you, I experienced this directly on my job. It's going to kill investment. And that's the goal. And that's the outcome, is it will kill investment because money will cost more to borrow, which will kill job openings and lower wages. It's just not good. It's
Yeah, and look, there's a lot there's a whole another debate about the, cheap, easy money that has been flowing from the Federal Reserve for, I don't know, at this point, like over a decade, and the ways in which corporations have been able to get this cheap money, and they are so leveraged up to their eyeballs in this debt. Those are all valid debates and conversations, but if you look at what's going to happen to ordinary people as these interest rates are raised, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a good thing for us. Historically, pretty much every time they've raised up rates to supposedly tackle inflation, it inevitably results in a recession. Mm-hmm. We see less job openings. We see wages go down. Is this actually going to fix inflation? I don't think it will, because you're not even addressing the major factors behind the inflation. You might cool off the housing market because now regular people like us, it's going to be so much more expensive to get a mortgage.
Right.
Maybe some of the speculation in housing goes down a little bit as it gets more expensive. Maybe that prices out some of these speculators because, in Huntsville, just as across the country, we're seeing a lot of out-of-state companies and out-of-state investors scooping up properties, and people are being priced out of their own backyards. And so, we'll see if it has any effect on that part of the economy. But in general, I don't see how this is going to fix inflation, but I do see how it's going to probably kick off a recession.
Yeah. We're, just in my job, we're talking about projects potentially not being able to go through. And what does that mean? That means the projects the projects that I work on are huge multi-million-dollar projects. I've got like 10 of these that are looking at being awarded in the next couple of years, and that's going to be a total of potentially like $100 million. A lot of that would go into workers' pockets. Some of it would go into material, and some of it's going to go into other stuff, but that's going to go to jobs too. And we're looking at having to kill some of these projects. It's just really not good. And so from an article in MR Online by Ben Norton, in a press conference on May the 4th, Powell announced that the Fed would be raising interest rates by 0.5% and implemented policies aimed at reducing inflation in the United States, which is at its highest level in 40 years. According to a transcript of the presser published by the Wall Street Journal, Powell blamed this inflation crisis, which is global, not on the proxy war in Ukraine and Western sanctions on Russia, but rather on U.S. workers supposedly making too much money.
Wow.
This is the Biden Fed chair. Employers are having difficulties filling job openings and wages are rising at the fastest pace in many years, Powell complained. The Fed's proposal bring down wages. And that's what that's a quote from him, is that we want to bring wages down. The theory behind why this is necessary is basically that Biden administration is buying the conservative argument about inflation. Support for working people during the pandemic has caused the market to be too favorable to workers, and so they need to correct that balance.
Y'all feeling that? Y'all feeling how favorable it is?
It doesn't make any sense because inflation is the same here as it is in Europe at about 8%. If U.S. policies are to blame, why is it that our inflation rates are identical?
Right. And why is that inflation rate not matching the rate of increase of wages? Right? If inflation's 8% and it's all because of us working people getting more crumbs from the table, you would think wages have risen by 8%, but they haven't.
Yeah. And it's
about 4%, right?
Right.
Is my understanding.
Well,
so we're looking at about 4% wage gains, but 8% inflation. And somehow, somehow it's all our fault as working people because we got a child tax credit or because we got, a bonus check here and there.
Because the real drivers of inflation are obviously global. Energy inflation is actually a bit lower here than in Europe. 30% here to 40% in Europe, largely because of the war in Ukraine and production not having ramped up to pre-pandemic levels because oil is sold on a global market. So, they're not getting their oil from Russia right now. Europe isn't. So they're having to buy from our suppliers of oil, which is pushing our oil prices up.
Which pushes the price up of
other
everything
goods.
else
Right.
that gets transported through oil, which is virtually anything you're going to buy.
Supply chain issues, production shocks. David Dayen in the American Prospect reports that even among like the academic economist people who say that not the conservative talk radio propagandists, but the real economists, even among the people that say that pandemic relief measures are somewhat to blame, it's not more than 1 or 2%. And yet somehow, among the conservative corporate media, and for some reason, the Biden administration, a reigning idea is that workers' wages are too high and we need to be put in check. And that's and Robert Kuttner points out in the American Prospect, exactly like you said, Adam, that the latest job report really puts this idea to bed if you care to take a look. Wages have only risen half as fast as inflation.
And by the way, not to get too off topic here, but that's one of the reasons why when I saw Alabama just celebrating this, huge teacher pay raise, I it's not that I was trying to downplay it, but it was a 4% raise across the board. Inflation's 8%. I'm not a math major, but I can figure that out. So, now there were some really important gains in terms of restructuring the salary matrix and increasing steps and that sort of thing. So I don't want to take away from that victory. But, if your employer is giving you a 4% raise while prices are rising at 8% or more, are you really gaining ground there?
Right. And Joe Marshall in the Facebook chat said, isn't Powell a Trump appointee? And he was a Trump appointee, but he was just confirmed a couple of weeks ago on May.
Yeah, Biden reappointed him.
Biden reappointed him.
And so I can only take that as a vote of confidence from the Biden administration that they support the direction they're going in. Means Morning News had a great segment this week, I believe on Wednesday, where they actually played some footage from one of Biden's economic advisors, who's more or less saying the same thing that you're hearing from Chair Powell. And in this case, the Biden White House was sort of putting it out there that, the labor market's so tight that we have room to do this. Because the question from the reporter was, how confident are you that the Fed can raise these interest rates and somehow, and that this is going to help inflation, but not put us into a recession? Can't say the answer impressed me.
It's just so...
And the political aspect to this is all happening as you're facing midterm elections in November.
Right.
That already look pretty bad, given the layout, given which offices are up for election in terms of on the Senate side. And if you look at approval ratings for Congress, approval ratings for Biden and the Biden administration and Democrats more broadly, and the historic trend that midterms after a new administration typically go to the opposition party, all signs point to bad November results for the Democrats. That's not inevitable, but again, I'm not an expert here, but my guess would be if we start seeing a recession, if we see the labor market collapse, if we see folks still paying higher at the grocery store and at the gas pump while the job market actually starts to dry up, how does this help you win an election in November? I don't know. It feels like they're doing things. It feels like they're taking actions that they know will get their ass kicked at the polls. Now, maybe they think that's the right thing to do for the American people, but it is very mind-boggling when you look at this and consider that they are almost certainly going to lose control of Congress. It's just, it's sad. It's sad, and, I've been told by many people that Joe Biden, he's the most pro-labor president we've ever had. He's going to be a new FDR, blah, blah, blah. And I think we've tried to be very fair on this show and highlight some things that have been good, particularly the NLRB. And there have been some proposals that were positive. They haven't gone anywhere. But all in all, I mean, you can't tell me this is it's hard to convince me how pro-labor this administration is when their economic policy seems geared towards the same kind of conservative economic policies that we would hear from the other party.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.